Well, hey, everybody. Getting ready to record this week's Mike in the Midwest. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. We're having a Tuesday. So let's do episode 127, shall we? Let's get after it. Here we go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 127 of Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast. You can find me on the socials at Be Our Guest Mike. I'd love to talk to you and, connect with you, follow you on the social media so I can see what you're up to, just like listener Trisha, who you'll hear from here later in the show. You hear from her each week. And I saw that her son was celebrating a birthday this morning as I was wrapping up my walk on the treadmill. So happy birthday to Trisha's son up in Wisconsin. And I saw that the elf on the shelf brought a gift to her son this morning on the stairs up there in their home. So how cool is that? I hope that he has a wonderful birthday today from all of us here at the Be Our Guest podcast. We're recording the show today on December 13th, 2022. In case you listen to this down the road, that'll give you a little bit of a timeline because I'm one of those folks who goes back and listens to some of my favorite podcasts years and years later. I listened to a show called You Don't Know Flack. It's about a guy, simple guy down in Oklahoma, down in Yukon, Oklahoma, named Rob Flack O'Hara, who is almost the exact same age as I am. Grew up playing with a Commodore 64, just like I did. Spending a lot of time on BBSs, which is kind of the baby beginnings of the internet, where you could you took your Commodore 64 and you had a modem with it. You could connect it to other Commodore 64s. You could leave messages. You could exchange files very, very slowly back in the day. But I ran a BBS that people could call to my house through a second phone line that my dad fortunately got for us, got for me, so I could run the Far Side BBS out of my house on my Commodore 64. And Rob did the same thing down in Oklahoma, and he wrote a book years ago called Commodore, which I thought was pretty fun, which I've read a couple of times. And he does a bunch of podcasts, and I love listening to his shows. And his shows are pretty evergreen because he just talks about different topics about growing up, and we're within a year of each other as far as age, and it's weird how a guy in Oklahoma and a guy in St. Louis we've never met. We talk sometimes briefly on social media, but how so many of our experiences in our childhood were very, very similar. Some are very different. He didn't play a lot of sports. I played a ton of sports. But as far as our hobbies and our growing up in school, because immediately he was thrown into the gifted program in his school district, they really didn't know what to do with him. They gave him a lot of busy work. I had a lot of the exact same experiences where I went to school because I got pulled out of public school, went to a private school because I basically, in kindergarten and first grade, they just sent me to the grade ahead and I just sat in that grade and didn't do a whole lot. And I spent some time in gifted programs where we got to do some cool stuff later in schooling, like in upper elementary and junior high. But it's kind of fun when you find a podcast that is very independent. It is just a guy talking into a microphone and sharing stories. He's a great storyteller. It's called You Don't Know Flack. It's pretty good. It's just a totally random podcast, and he collected arcade games. He had a 30 game arcade in his backyard at one point. He had a big shed down in Oklahoma. He talks about different shows, but he seems like a very good guy. Goes on many vacations. He's currently building a stealth van, which I think is pretty cool. I would never be able to do this stuff. I don't have the time to do all these cool projects he does, but it's just fun because it's not corporate. It's a guy and a microphone and a computer, but it's the heart of independent podcasting. It's what podcasts were back in 2005, 2006, 2007. It's not, super polished, but what it is, it's a guy telling great stories, and it engages you. Like for an hour, when I see one of his shows pop up in my feed, I always get excited because he'll talk about the time he spent with radio scanners, and those like little scanners you got at Radio Shack where you could listen to police radios, and you could listen to trains, and you could listen to airplanes talking to the air traffic control towers. I'm a nerd. I love that kind of stuff, and he does shows about that kind of things. And I had one of those, so it's so weird that we had similar backgrounds. So yeah, that's sending a shout out to them. And also, speaking of that, he's down in Oklahoma. We had a lot of friends down in the South, and I hope you're all staying safe today because I know the weather has been rough down in the South with all the tornadoes and the strong weather. So I hope everybody is staying safe down there, and hope everybody's enjoying the snow if you're up north because there's a blizzard. It starts with a D. I know they name the blizzards now. Back in the day, it was just a big snowstorm, but stay safe and enjoy the snow. I did see, because I'm a weather geek as well, that the long-term forecast for Christmas. Now we're less than 2 weeks out for Christmas. Can you believe that? I can't believe it. We're getting close to Christmas, but the long-term forecast for most of the United States, the continental United States, very, very cold. They're saying for St. Louis, we could have temperatures 20 degrees below normal, which means lows at 0 or below 0 around Christmas week, and highs maybe not reaching 20, which that is super uncomfortable. I don't really like that when I got to take Riley out to go to the bathroom because this dog is spoiled and she will not go to the bathroom in our yard. She has to go out to the lake. Spoiled dog, right? Maybe she can compromise when it gets super cold, just do her business like up close and quick. But yeah, so we have to take her out one lap to the lake, which fortunately is real quick. It's right behind our house, but still she likes to do one little quarter mile around the lake. I guess it loosens her up. I don't know what's going on there, but we're going to have cold weather, it looks like, for Christmas. Now, we don't get white Christmases in St. Louis very often. I think they said on the news 17% of the time we get a white Christmas. But if it's going to be that cold, alls we need is a little moisture, because if it's going to be that cold, it is not going to be rain. It's going to be snow. So bring it on. I love Christmas, but there's nothing like a white Christmas. So I'm hoping and praying that we get a white Christmas this year. It would be awesome. So I am getting excited that we may have one this year. And I'll tell you what, the last few Christmases around here have been warm, like 70. And that's just not feeling like Christmas. I mean, it is kind of comfortable to take all your gifts to the car, to take to the in-laws. You're not having to get frostbite and all that stuff. There's something to be said for that. But there's also something to be said for, it's Christmas. It's supposed to be cold when you go to midnight service, on Christmas Eve and stuff like that. So it's looking like Christmas is going to feel like Christmas this year here in St. Louis. And I, for one, am excited. It'll make the Christmas music sound a little bit better. It'll make the gift exchanges feel a little bit better. I just love it. I'm a Christmas guy, and I love that stuff. So hope you have the kind of Christmas you're looking for. And then, of course, if it stays cold, who cares? I get to go to Florida for marathon weekend. Then I need it to be comfortable. I don't need it to be hot because we don't want to be running in the heat, but I don't want it to be cold either. Don't need that super cold. Comfortable. The temperature, comfortable. 40s for the races, 60s, 70s in the afternoons when I'm out playing in the parks. That's all I ask. No big deal. That's what I'm asking for. So what's going on here around the studios? That's about it. It's a rainy afternoon here. Currently, it's about 50 degrees and rain, and not a whole lot going on around here. We had a wedding this past weekend for my nephew way out in the country, out in the middle of Missouri, which was kind of fun to go to. Mallory went to our high school cheerleading squad, the varsity squad, competed in the state championships and came in fourth. So she went with that squad down to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, down by the Boot Heel. And so she did that on Saturday. And yeah, that's about it. Everybody's going to school, and it's a maddening time in schools right now. So teachers, hang in there. I know it's like watch your back. It's dangerous. It's survival. You have to do report cards at this time of the year. You have to get ready for Christmas concerts. You have to watch the kids because the kids are nuts. They're worried about Santa coming. They're worried about just making it these last few days to break. They're hyped. Like, they're hyped. The weather's changing. They're crazy. Trust me, I did 17 years. I know. And we're going to talk about how this time of the year back in 1998 was super crazy. That's going to be the topic for the show here at the end. So stay tuned for that. All right. So this show might not be super long because, and I want to let you know about this couple things. One is that when I recorded, so I think I've shared this here on Mike in the Midwest. If not, I don't think I've ever shared this on the big show, but I get migraine headaches. And I've had them since high school. And when I get them, they are really bad. I have this really strong prescription medicine, which I could only take every once in a while. Like you can't take it a lot. I take this other medicine each night, which is supposed to keep them from happening, but they do happen occasionally. And I've had a migraine headache since Sunday afternoon. And when I get them, they usually last for 4 or 5 days. So hopefully this is on the way out. But Sunday night during the live show, I had one and I tried to power through with Scott. I made it to the very, very end, I think, and tried to get through that one. But man, that was rough. And then yesterday, of course, on Monday, we record the Wednesday and Friday shows for the week. Well, Ricky was out because Ricky has COVID currently. So she has COVID and she couldn't record. And she's pregnant, of course. She's getting ready to have a baby. So that was just a no-go. She was feeling terrible. Pam is still out of town on business. So she was unavailable. So it was just Scott and I. And I had a horrible migraine, but Scott was a trooper. He made it happen. So this week's shows, I just want the listener questions on Wednesday, and Friday show is it's an okay show. We what we do is we go through some photos, we pick a day in our Google Photos, and we tell the story behind the photo from some of our trips: Disney cruises, Disneyland, Walt Disney World races, meals, going fishing, all kinds of stuff. But I just want to tell you, because you're kind of you're like the heart of the show. You guys support the show. This is absolutely your show. You're a shareholder, you're a stakeholder in the podcast. I just want to tell you that I know these weren't my very best efforts. I try to give 100% every single time, and I never want to miss a show. But I was really suffering this week when I was recording those shows yesterday. Still kind of am, but I never want to miss a podcast for you guys. And I always try to give the best that I can. So if Wednesdays and Friday shows are not 100%, I do apologize. Hope you still enjoy them. We had a good time recording them, but it was rough getting those through. So hopefully next week we'll have some more awesome shows. So stay tuned for those. Also, I'm a little bit down today. Every once in a while, you just get some news that hits you a little bit harder than you were expecting. And you guys know I'm a big college football fan, right? I love college football. It's one of the things that I'm just, I'm not a movie guy. I don't watch movies. Um, don't really watch TV. I watch sports and I really watch college football. I'm into that. That's my jam, especially the SEC, which is the Southeastern Conference football colleges down in the Southeastern United States. Well, on Sunday, we found out that one of the coaches for Mississippi State, the head coach, Mike Leach, was taken to the hospital with a medical emergency. And I'm not going to turn this into the Mike Leach show, but Mike Leach, the head coach of Mississippi State, they announced this morning during my favorite morning radio show with Chris Childers, he's been on the podcast about 2 years ago. He was a guest on a Monday show because he's a huge Disney fan. It's called the Show Pony. It's what he calls himself on the radio. So you can go back into the archives, and I think it's called the Show Pony. Comes on the Be Our Guest podcast or something like that. But he comes on and talks about his fandom for Disney and talks with me. We did an interview, but he used to do a radio show with Coach Leach, who was the current coach of Mississippi State, the Bulldogs. We found out this morning that he passed away unexpectedly at age 61. And the thing was, like, Coach Leach was never the coach of Mizzou or any coaches, schools that I followed. But he was so different. He was a really different type coach, where most of the college football coaches, like, they burn the candle at both ends, and that's kind of the mark of success. I try to do that a lot of times with being a travel agent. I try to work as hard as I can to maintain, being the best that I can at the top of my field. With the podcast, I try to do that. Most shows do a show every couple of weeks, a show every week. I try to make sure that there's 3, 4, 5 shows a week for you guys. But Mike Leach did things differently. Coach Leach, he would go in a little bit later and wouldn't be scared to leave the office early. He'd go fishing. He was a great coach. He was brilliant. He was a gifted man. He was eccentric. He wrote books. He wrote a book about Geronimo, the Native American leader. He knew everything there was to know about pirates and the pirate culture. He was just an eccentric person. After the games, he was noted for not talking about the football game in the press conference. He would give advice on the favorite kind of candies that you could get for Halloween. Or he gave one of the announcers just this past season, after a huge win against a team that was nationally ranked, He gave her advice for her upcoming wedding, told her she needs to elope because weddings are just a lot of trouble and they're going to cost you a lot of money. People are going to get nosy and give you advice that you don't need. Go elope. He said, people are going to get mad for a couple of days. They'll get over it. Go elope. You'll be happy and you'll have a great life. He was eccentric and he did things his way, but he was still successful on the field. His teams won. His players loved him. And he definitely 100% marched to his own drummer. He had his own beat. And God, I respected that so much about the man. I always loved this guy. And I always thought in the back of my mind, if he became the Mizzou coach, what a fun ride that would be. Because, I love my coaches. I love Coach Drinkwitz, who we have now. I loved Coach Pinkel. He's a College Hall of Famer as of last week. I love our coaches we've had, but our coaches have been coaches. I love Coach Saban. He's one of my people that I look up to. But, there was never anybody like Coach Leach. He didn't care. He did things the way he wanted to do them, and he was successful, and he was extremely eccentric, and he was cool with that. And I think we could all learn a little bit from him on this day. We find out that he's no longer with us, that, it's okay to do that. And I'm going to try to incorporate a little bit of that in my life. I've done a few things in life where I've taken chances. I had a very comfortable job as a teacher for 17 years, loved it, taught in the same district with my wife. We had the same schedules, very steady paycheck, pretty successful in teaching. I think I was pretty respected in our school district, but I wanted a new adventure. I wanted to try something that scared the crud out of me. Talk about an inconsistent paycheck. How about going out there and doing something where everything you do is based on commission? You're betting on yourself. I took a chance at that and it's worked out okay. But Coach Leach was the ultimate of that. So, I just want to say that I'm keeping his friends and his family and all the Mississippi State fans, the citizens of Starkville, Mississippi, all those folks in our thoughts and prayers, because he had a bigger impact on me than I expected. Because when I heard the news, it really hurt. And I'm wondering, again, a little feedback for next week's show. Have you ever gotten the news of somebody passing away unexpectedly and it caught you off guard? I'll be honest, I was getting ready. I was just out of the shower when I heard the news. And of course, he'd been in critical condition for about 48 hours. So I knew this news could be coming and I was kind of preparing myself. And I was always checking Twitter over the last 48 hours, hoping to not see the news, but kind of expecting that we might see the news. It was one of those things like they were kind of saying it, but not saying it. And when I officially got the news this morning from Chris Childers on the Full Ride radio show, I cried. Everybody else was gone off to school. I was home by myself, but I was shaving at the time and I had the radio playing on my, Alexa dot there that I have in the bathroom playing the radio. It was sad. Nope, stop. Alexa, stop. Sorry about that. If I triggered yours, I just triggered mine here in the studio. But maybe that's Coach Leach giving me a little humor because he would get a kick out of that. But it hurt, it hurt more than I was expecting. So has that ever happened to you or somebody that you didn't know? Like, and he wasn't my Mizzou coach. Like, I'm not even a Mississippi State grad. I'm not a Mississippi State fan. I don't hate him, but I don't wear the Bulldog uniform. It was a little unexpected. So has that ever happened to you? I'm just wondering. So Coach Leach and your family, we're thinking of you. We're praying for you. And thank you for inspiring us to live a better life. So there you go. Hail State. All right, let's get to the feedback from last week's show. Last week, I talked about a couple of things. Civic pride. We're very happy that our football team won state. Our little community came together, and we're still riding high. We're going to have to put a sign on our highway right outside of our subdivision here saying, you're going down Missouri State Highway 94, home of the Class 5A Francis Howell Vikings, Missouri State football champions. Jody comes in here with a little feedback, which I appreciate. He says, hi, Mike. I love hearing about your pride in your area. Your timing of sharing great things in our community is perfect. Last night, we participated in our community shop and share. I know a lot of places here have giving trees at the holidays, but our area has a unique twist that makes my heart swell. We have 9 schools in our district, and there's a nonprofit called 9 United. Their big event is shop and share. Our family always gets a list of a family in need, and we go and shop for them, similar to other Giving Tree programs. But here's the unique twist. A few weeks before the event, each of our 9 schools hosts coin wars where they collect money at lunch from each grade. That money goes to 9 United, and they use that money to host a community shopping event at Target so people can go shop for others, but using the funds from 9 United coin wars instead of their own money. Mike, it is so touching to see our community come together and take over Target, get a list, and buy gifts for those in need. We have even had families who are on the receiving end of the gift show up to shop for others because they're able to use their coin war money to make the purchases. It's a crazy night at Target, but the community coming together to do something for others is an amazing Christmas gift I treasure each year. Isn't that what it's all about? And that's awesome. I get choked up just reading that because it's awesome when everybody, there's so much bad news all the time on the news, but there's so much good news that doesn't get reported. And people are good. People are good. And people do great stuff like this. And that's why I love being able to have a little voice like this, because I hope you hear this today, wherever you are in the country or the world, and it makes your heart swell just a little because Jody shared this 9 United Giving Tree night at Target. It is probably nuts, but it's nuts in the very best way possible. Jody, thanks for making my heart swell. I needed that today. Thank you. Trisha, speaking of Trisha, here she is. She says, we live on the fringe of suburbia in, oh my gosh, Okanawaka. No, I totally hosed that. She said, good luck pronouncing that. We have a larger wooded lot, but only 10 to 15 minutes away from stores. As our daughter is younger, we don't have community pride yet. However, my daughter is on the YMCA swimming team. Go Piranhas. I like that name, Piranhas. I'm sure you understand the team community that builds from a traveling team where there are overnights in hotels. We are a tight-knit, supportive group. Yes, being on a cheerleading squad will teach you. And I played sports growing up where we did that. So did Paige with soccer. But cheerleading is a whole nother level. Spending the night at hotels for those. Oh my God. It's just nuts. She continues. One of my favorite daddy-daughter memories was going to a Brewers game. Just the two of us. We ate loaded mashed potato parfaits, layers of mashed potatoes, bacon, and cheese. It was delicious. Oh my God. Okay, Trisha, let me just say this because I've been to the Dells. That's my only time really in Wisconsin. You guys eat the best in Wisconsin with your potatoes, bacon, and your curds. I just kept eating curds when I was up there. You guys, I think, are the home of Culver's, which I love. The Wisconsins know how to eat. You guys are awesome. My dad gets to go there, I think, next week because I believe the Rams play the Packers at Lambeau for Monday Night Football. So I'm jealous of my dad. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, Trisha. And that elf is doing a bang up job in your house. Tell him to keep it up. Megan Green, our last piece of feedback from last week, says, I'll never forget in my senior year of high school when my tiny high school, which was never the best in any sport, went to the state championships with our basketball team. And since I was a senior, so many of the players on the team were my friends. So it was so awesome watching them play. Much like your football team, if they won, or as they won and won more people from the community started showing up at games until people were swarming the court after every win. And when they made it to the state championship, our school paid for the school buses to take any student who wanted to go up to Baltimore to watch the game. And it was on my birthday. It was so much fun. We ultimately didn't win in the end, but it was such a fun ride. None of us cared. The energy and enthusiasm and pride of that season is something we'll never forget. You know what, Megan? That is exactly right. When we made it to the state final, which was played at Mizzou, our school also paid for all the students. Actually, wanted, so we got like big charter buses. And what this guy in the community like paid for them, this insurance agent, he paid for the buses. Anybody wanted to go, just go. He wrote them out there. It was really cool that he did that. But when, here's what I told everybody when we made it to the finals. I wanted to win, and I thought we would win because we were just dominant this year, but we got to play every possible game of the year. We got to play 14 football games. So win or lose, we got to play in the last game of the year. Only 2 teams got to play every game of the year, and we were one of them. Now, luckily, we won, but it was awesome to get to the finals. And that's what you got to do. You got to have the experience, you got to have the fun on your birthday, and you'll have that forever. What a memory. Like I feel like I was in high school. Yeah, I can't believe that I'm the age I am. Because when I'm sitting in the stands, I was right back to being at Hazelwood Central, where I went to high school, and not at Francis Howell. When I was in high school, we hated Francis Howell, really, to be honest. I hate to say that because they were a rival. They were good at sports. And so were we. Like in baseball, we played each other, and they were big country boys because they were way out in the country back then. And now we're living here, so I'm all in on Howell. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's kind of cool. Thanks for the memory, Megan and Trisha and Jody. You guys really made my day with the feedback. So if you have feedback on this show or any show, please take the time to leave it over at patreon.com/Be Our Guest Podcast. I love sharing feedback. It makes me happy, and I hope it makes you happy to hear it from folks that are out there in the podcast family. Okay, today, quick topic. Told you today's show wouldn't be very long. I was reflecting back this time of the year on one of the shows. And again, like I said at the beginning of the show, if you're a teacher or if you work in education, and I know a lot of careers right now, like if you're in retail, it's got to be crazy too. But I worked in education, so I have firsthand knowledge. The next week and a half is absolutely strap in insane because schools have so much going on. A lot of times schools are doing giving trees, they're doing food drives, they're doing getting ready for Christmas concerts. Teachers have report cards due right before Christmas. Now you do get a nice Christmas break, so hang in there. It's awesome. But you got a lot of stuff going on just to make it there. It's like mile 23 of a marathon. If you've ever run a marathon, it stinks. You just want to stop. Like you're locking up, your legs hurt, you have blisters, you feel like 7 people have punched you in the nose, but you're close. And that medal is right there. It's 3 miles away, which is a long 3 miles at the end of a marathon, but it's close. You could almost taste it. That's where teachers are right now. Now, I want to take you back to 1998. I was a student teacher, and I went to the University of Missouri in St. Louis because I couldn't afford to go to Mizzou, couldn't afford to go away to school. So I wrapped up my college career at the University of Missouri St. Louis to become a teacher. And the way it worked where I went to school was your last semester you were a student teacher, which the way they did it at UMSL, which is what we called University of Missouri St. Louis, you did what was called the 717 model. So you did 7 weeks in one placement. Then there was a week where you didn't go and teach at all. You had a week where you did all your paperwork and put together these portfolios so that when you went out to interview for your job, you'd have a portfolio to take with you of all your collected works. And then you did 7 weeks in a second placement. And then you had another week, it was 7171. And then you did another week kind of to reflect and do your final portfolios. And then you graduated. And I graduated in January. So I graduated at in the winter semester. So anyway, I did my student teaching in the fall, which was good because, it's when school started. My first 7 weeks was at Wedgwood Elementary. I taught second grade, and it was the greatest placement of all time for a few reasons. It was the best school that I could have ever imagined. I loved it. But I mean, when I got second grade, I was like, what? I'm teaching second grade because I wanted to be a sixth grade teacher. That's the grade I wanted to teach, grade 6. And also, it was in the Ferguson Florissant School District. I did not want to teach in the Ferguson Florissant School District. Now, that's where I went to school in kindergarten and first grade growing up was Ferguson Florissant. It was the adjacent school district to the school district where I graduated, but it was not the good school district. I wanted to teach in the Hazelwood School District, which is where I went to school and graduated from 7th grade up. So anyway, I kind of went in there and I was like, ugh. But as soon as I got into the building, I was like, I love this school. First of all, I got a great cooperating teacher, Mrs. Jasper, who took me under her wing. She had 2 sons that were about my age, which I think really helped. She kind of saw me as a third son, and she was an awesome teacher, and she loved her students. And she taught me everything about teaching and about life and about the not just the X's and O's of teaching, but the the soft skills you got to have as a teacher, how to talk to parents, how to break bad news to parents, how to talk to other educators in the building, how to advocate for kids who might be struggling, who might be, might need some special school district services. It's hard to break that news to parents, But in the long run, it can give those kids the support they need to succeed. That stuff's hard. And when you become a teacher in your own classroom, you're going to have to do this stuff. She challenged me and she gave me the chance to get in there and get my hands dirty. And I mean, I loved her for that, but she taught me so much. She was an awesome teacher, Mrs. Jasper, now retired and living in Central Florida at the Villages. Smart. Okay, so real quick story from there. I'll just tell you a couple stories. One is, well, on the first week of student teaching. Now, remember, I'm 6'3". These little second graders, little bitty kids, I'm towering over them. But they all kind of liked having like the giant in the classroom. I remember they all thought Mr. Rama was pretty cool because Mrs. Jasper was a little short, tiny lady, just great, like but tiny. So I was like this, huge giant in the classroom. Of course, my uniform was Dockers and like a Izod shirt, like a polo shirt every day or like a shirt and a tie. I wore a shirt and a tie a lot back then. Imagine that. But I remember one day I was helping out a kid and I bent over to help him down at his desk. And like the desks were, of course, really low because I'm big and they're small. And I just remember hearing I ripped out the seam of my pants and my Dockers when I bent over to help this kid. Totally ripped out the inseam of my pants. So I go to Carol. I'm like, Carol, Mrs. Jasper, I have a problem. I just ripped out the inseam of my pants. And she cracked up. She was dying. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, man, I gotta go to the bathroom. I gotta do something. She's like, just don't you live down the street? I was like, yeah, I live 5 minutes down the road. Just go home and just change your pants. Like, just go. Like, luckily we have two of us. She's like, I don't know what you'd do if this was your classroom. I'm like, I don't either. But yeah, she told me just to jump out of there and go home. And I think that night was open house. So fortunately, I got to go home because I was all dressed up, right, with a tie and a shirt. That I remember that was the open house night. I was like, oh, could this happen on the worst day? But of course, as a teacher, you have like 17 pair of Dockers. So I just went home and changed pants, but I was so embarrassed. I had to like sneak out of there and walk, like crazy walk so nobody noticed. Of course, second graders probably didn't notice. Thank God that didn't happen when I taught sixth grade because they would have noticed and never let me know the end of that. So anyway, that was an awesome experience teaching second grade in my 7 weeks there. After the reason this whole show came together is I was walking on the treadmill this morning, and when I walk on the treadmill, I do it in our storage room. And I noticed I was looking around as I do because I'm on the treadmill for 2.5 hours. Um, I saw that in one of the baskets of stuff that's piled up in the corner, my portfolios, because after each setting, second grade and when I taught sixth grade later, you had to put together a portfolio of all your work, your projects, anything that you created was in a portfolio. So when you went on interviews, you could share that with a potential school and during your interview process. And I saw those and I have not opened those things up since I created those because I didn't even use those on my interviews. Because when I was hired at Wedgwood without ever going through an interview process because they kind of liked me after my student teaching and a position opened up. So I was hired without going through interviews. So I never even used those things, even though I spent hours creating them, which you were graded on those. So you had to do it anyway. It was your final grade, but I never really had to use them. So that was kind of nice. But anyway, so that was my second grade placement. Oh, and by the way, in that building, there was a sixth grade teacher by the name of Pam Bullington, who I thought was pretty awesome. And again, I wanted to teach sixth grade in that building. And cool thing is that's kind of my wife for the last 16 years. So yeah, I got to meet my wife in that building. So I was lucky that I got placed there, huh? Pretty cool. So I took my week and after my 7 weeks, it was so hard to leave this class though, because she was so good about building a family with those students. And she included me in that. And I just remember the kids cried when I left after 7 weeks. I was crying because I didn't want to leave because after 7 weeks, I had to go and then I had to go to my second placement. Now, my second placement should have been the jam because I was going to the district I wanted to teach in. I was going to my home district of Hazelwood. I was teaching sixth grade, the grade I wanted to teach in the newest building in the district. I mean, this was everything I wanted, sixth grade in the district. Great new building. This is an old building. Wedgwood was an old building. It was weird looking. It was like octagons. Um, and I was excited for that. I got in there and I got this teacher and I learned a lot from her, but I learned a lot of things that I didn't want to do as a teacher. She didn't really, she taught the kids like they were robots. She was very authoritarian, which as a teacher, you had to be authoritarian sometimes. But I tried to build my classrooms that I had for my 17 years as a family. It was respect. It was always respect, and it was always about relationships. We always learned from each other. I always told the kids, I can learn from you because you have experiences I do not have. 100%. And I need to learn from you because I'm a lifelong learner, just like I want you to be a lifelong learner. And the thing was, she was not like that. First thing she told me is that I would have been the teacher of the year in the Hazelwood School District twice. And I thought that was awesome because I'm getting to learn from a teacher of the year, two-time teacher of the year. But she kept hanging and she kept showing me her award. And it was just very cold and sterile in her classroom. Never felt like a community, never felt like a family. And I was disappointed. I liked the kids, I liked the curriculum, but I never had that warm feeling. So I learned a lot there too. I learned that I wanted to teach sixth grade, but I learned that I wanted to teach my kids and make my classroom somewhere my kids crave to be. Somewhere that when they're adults, they'll look back and have a positive experience, not about the math lesson I taught or the science lesson I taught, but about the feelings we had. Like the fun times we got to joke around before the Christmas concert when we're all hanging out in our classroom, waiting to get called down to the cafeteria to sing. Because I remember we talked about that. I'd be like, okay, Lance, you're my buddy, man. You're going to sing that solo tonight, and we could cut up because it wasn't the official classroom period. Now, we learned a lot, and I had high expectations for my kids. And there were definitely, kids missed recess. There were consequences, and it was clear. We studied Hammurabi's code from back in, ancient times. We studied that. And then we wrote a Hammurabi's code for Rallman's classroom. And we followed that. That was basically our classroom rules. If you do this, then this is the consequence. But it was honest and it was consistent and it was clear and it was fun and it was a community. So I was thinking about that. And as hectic as these times are, like these last few days before Christmas break, they were the good days because I was in charge of student council with Pam when I taught sixth grade next door to her. And man, we were so wiped out, but we were bringing in thousands of canned goods because we had a big school. We were bringing in thousands of canned goods for the community. We were doing a toy drive. We were bringing in toys for this place called Mary Grove, which was a home for kids that had special needs that didn't have families. We raised toys for them, and we were like always sorting those things after school and getting the toy, the cans off to the what was it called? The place that distributed all the canned goods to the families in our community. Of course we had to do report cards, but I loved going to the Christmas concerts. Our music teacher, Mr. Riddle, I loved because every Christmas concert, he had the saddest looking Christmas tree that I'd help him set up every year. But it was perfect because it was like the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. And I always told him it wasn't Christmas until Mr. Riddle put on the red Christmas sweater. And he always put that thing. And I love Mr. Riddle because he could play the piano and talk to you and carry a conversation on. And the kids would be singing all at the same time. He could be playing Jingle Bell Rock as the whole sixth grade was singing the song and carry a conversation on with me and see kids that were breaking the rules at the same time. Amazing guy. Cool guy. Loved it. But it was just that experience. That's the stuff I miss. So teachers, I know it's hard right now. And I know parents, your kids are whacked out right now. We're going to get there. These are the good days. Enjoy the little moments. Enjoy the little moments because they're going to go by quickly and they're going to be gone because I miss them. It's hard. I know my wife, if I ask her tonight, she's going to be like, I'm so tired. I'm so at my wit's end. And I know she is because I talk to her every night over dinner about that. But enjoy these times because they go by quickly. Just a few stories. I didn't even get into my portfolios. They're sitting right behind me. But there's just a couple stories to hopefully brighten your day and just kind of keep you company here for a few minutes. And just let you know that I appreciate you and I hope you're having a great holiday season. So real quick, please do call into the live show with Scott and I this Sunday night. It's not necessarily Disney. It's a holiday special. I want to know about your favorite holiday gift you got as a kid, or what's a gift you never got that you always wanted? How do you celebrate on Christmas Eve? Is there a special tradition you have Christmas morning? What do you have for breakfast? What's your favorite Christmas cookie? What do you do in your community? We just want to talk about favorite holiday memories to share on the live call-in show this Sunday night. Then we'll put that out and you can take that with you on the road to share with your family as you go over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house for your celebrations. All right, let's get out of here and hope you have a great week. And thanks so much for spending some time with me. I love you guys very much. So until we get back together again next Tuesday, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.